Hi, best friends. I'm Tabby.
And I'm Caitlin, and today we will be celebrating our first Christmas together at the book club.
God.
Merry Christmas!
Happy Marchmas.
Happy Marchmas, everybody. We're talking about the novella in the ACOTAR series, A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. It's a beautiful little Christmas special.
Also known as A Very ACOTAR Christmas.
Oh yes, a very ACOTAR Christmas. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of jump right into a synopsis of this little thing for you. It's so much shorter than the actual novels in the series.
The best money grab that I've ever read in my life, if I'm being wholly honest.
Absolutely. Sorry, do you want to read?
Yeah, I'll start.
Okay, you start.
So kicking us off. So the cool thing about this book is that it is written from multiple points of view this time around. So we start off with Feyre, our bestie. So winter has come in Valaris. Reese and Feyre have been really busy, solidifying all the relationships between the different courts, rebuilding their world after Hybern. Super cool. It starts off kind of the same way the first book does. You see a lot of parallels between the two. It's winter, it's snowing, but this time she's not starving to death. Elaine is... Love that for her. What growth. So Elaine's living in the townhouse still, but Nesta, our bestie, has moved out. She's living in the slums of Valaris, if there is such a thing.
There is.
Right by so Lucian is living in an apartment by the river. So the gang has split up. There's a lot of discord between the two of them, or three of them. Feyre's been trying to volunteer her time to help the people of Valaris after the last attack on Hybern. If you remember, they attacked the Rainbow and kind of just broke everything down, busted in the windows of all the shops. But they all told her to go home and enjoy the solstice because it's Christmas.
Yeah, and it's really similar to in the second book when she's like, "Please let me help," and they're like, "Go away, you've done enough."
And she's like, "Oh, I'd rather not."
Yeah, she doesn't love that. So the next part is from Rhys-Anne's perspective. So Rhys and Cassian are visiting the Windhaven War Camp. That's the camp that Lord Devlin is in charge of. So they've been working really hard to make sure all the female Illyrians have the same right to train and become warriors as the males. But a lot of the war camps are pushing back against that because they're super conservative in their beliefs and they're resistant to change. So Rhys is feeling the pressures of everything that needs to be healed after the war. He is just like, we as a court of dreams, my family and friends, we are going to celebrate the winter solstice together. I don't care what you're doing, cancel your plans, you're coming to my house. And he's also still really struggling with feelings of guilt. He feels bad that he and Feyre are happy together. He's like, I'm not allowed to feel happy because not everyone in my life is happy. And it's,
really sad.
It is. It's sad.
Yeah, so the third point of view we get in this book is Cassian, which is brand new to us. We love that. We haven't really gotten to see anything from Cassian's point of view ever. So he is staying at the Windhaven camp for the next couple of days before he has to come back for winter solstice. And he is staying there because he's deeply in his feels for Nesta. Don't know why. Who would? And Nesta is, ignoring him and everyone else because she's a bitch. So he decides to fly over Ramiel, which is that sacred mountain. They talked about it a little bit, I think, in the second book, which is where they get to do the blood rite for the Illyrian camps. And Rhys and Azriel did their blood rite together. So it's very monumental to him. So the rite is a week-long trial where all the Illyrian warrior novices are basically dropped in a mountain with no weapons. They can't use any magic. Their wings are tied together so they can't fly away. And the goal is to basically fight each other until they reach the top of the mountain. There's multiple levels that you can get to, but you want to touch the stone at the top of the mountain to become an Illyrian warrior at the end of the week. So you're just trying to survive. The obstacles really are the fact that everyone's trying to kill you. So they kind of mentioned that a lot of tribes or whatever will take out their revenge during this time. And so like you got to watch your back basically. And like if you remember in the second book, like Cass, Rhys, and Asriel were like highly sought after in this whole little battle because they're super powerful. But anyway, so he lands on another mountain nearby, and that used to be the village where he was born, and he had to come back when he was strong enough. And he burned it to the ground for the way they treated his mom. So he's having a little flashback to when he found out about his mother, and super sad. You get to see a little point of view from Cassian's side. He's dealt with a lot of trauma and being raised, homeless and a bastard child.
Yeah, pretty depressing. So then we switch back to Miss Feyre's point of view. She's taking a walk through the rainbow of Valaris, and people are like kind of going about their holiday stuff. They're decorating, and there's shoppers going around buying stuff. But Feyre is still haunted by the memory of the attack on Valaris when Hybern came and she defended this artist's quarter. So she kind of walks up to one of the buildings that's still damaged from that, and like someone pops up behind her and is like, don't worry, like the occupants got out in time. And so she turns to face the woman who's talking to her, and she recognizes her as one of the fairies who was also defending the rainbow that day. And so Feyre kind of points at another building next to it, and she's like, what about that one? And she's like, well, that lady actually wasn't so lucky. And so she's like, actually, that building's for sale now. And Feyre's like, I don't need it. Like, no, that's not why I'm asking. And so the lady introduces herself. Her name is Racina. And she says, really? Because there's like a rumor that you're a really good artist. And so I think you could like use the space, And Racina points out a studio down the street and tells Feyre, like, that's my studio where I paint, like, come paint with me sometime. And Feyre's like, thank you. Like, that means a lot. Thank you.
Heard.
So then Feyre continues going, because she went out like to go Christmas shopping, or sorry, solstice shopping.
Whoa.
And Moore kind of just like notices she's out, so she comes up to talk to her, and she's like, by the way, bestie, we are going to the Hewn City tonight, and Eris will be there. So Feyre's like, that doesn't sound fun, but okay.
Like gross, like on Christmas. Okay. So then we get Morgan's point of view. So they are at the Hewn City, and we do get quite a bit of flashback from Moore to when she was, stabbed in the stomach with a nail and dropped into the woods to die, and next to the Autumn Court. Yeah, super fun family event. Mm-hmm. So she's remembering back to when Eris found her lying there, and he ordered everyone not to touch her, otherwise she'd become his responsibility. Eris had asked Moore if she wanted to live in the Autumn Court, and he saw in her eyes that the answer was no. So he left her there, which we'll get back to that because I think some more happened. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, so we do get a little backstory from Moore's point of view. We've heard her tell this story at least 12 times, I feel like, at this point. But we get it from her perspective. And so then Feyre tells Eris that Baron is not to step one foot into the human lands, not even a singular toe. And Eris suggests
not
that
even a toenail.
Not one toenail, Baron. And then he suggests that they let Tamlin know, since his court is the one that borders the human territory. I'm like, oh, Tamlin, forgot about you, bud.
Yeah, and the mention of Tamlin is got everyone on edge a little bit. Like, but the next part is from Rhysand's perspective. So Asriel pays him a little visit, and he lets him know he has some intel about which of the Illyrian camps are like spreading discontent with the way that Rhys is running things, specifically like being a feminist. They don't like that. So Rhys tells Asriel, like, just keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on the human queens, because they are still, like, they haven't left their palace, and they haven't really heard anything from them. Asriel tells Rhys that Vassa and Jerian are still, like, with Grayson, but Vassa will eventually have to return back to the lake, like, where her captor is. For some reason, she's gotten a bit of an extension on her vacay. We don't know why, but yeah, she's still thriving for now. And it's revealed that Lucian is now the human emissary for the Night Court. He, as of right now, he's supposed to be spending solstice in the Spring Court. Tamlin invited him there. And so Rhys tells Azriel, like, I'll pay a visit to the spring court and like discuss all of this stuff with Lucian, and then like also kind of talk to Tamlin about his borders being insecure right now.
Just like him, his borders are also insecure.
Is the most insecure man and territory in all of Prythian.
In all of Prythian. Absolutely. So then we hop back to Cassian. So he is still with the Illyrians. He has entered a shop. He was looking for a male named Proteus.
A male, if you will.
And he is, immediately talked to by this female who he can tell her wings have been clipped, like basically all the other women Illyrians. And she responds saying that she is his daughter and that he died in the war. And Cassian was basically like, good, like you should for clipping your wings. She introduces herself as Emery. They kind of have a little heart to heart, and Cassian buys all the winter gear from her shop and pays her to deliver those in need, because you can tell no one's in her shop because she is a lady and the Illyrians suck and they don't respect her. So Cassian buys all of her stuff.
Real messed up. So then we're back to Miss Feyre's perspective. Rhys asked her if she wants to go to the spring court with him, but she's like, hard pass. No, thank you. So she decides, like, that kind of upsets her, just like the fact that
really hurt my feelings.
It hurt her feelings that like he would even ask. No, I'm just kidding. She just is still like, things are still touchy with like that part of her life. So she gets in her feels and she wants to go paint. She feels too nervous though. Like her plan was to go to Rosina's studio because she'd invited her. And so she shows up with all of her painting supplies outside the building and she is like, no, I'm not ready for this. So she actually winnows inside Paulina's old abandoned gallery and she starts painting, and she ended up painting a portrait of herself as she appeared in the Ouroboros, which was like as a horrifying monster.
It's a she beast.
Yeah, it's a she beast and it's a terrifying painting.
Yes. So then we're back to Rhys. So he has gone to visit Tamlin in the spring court, and he finds him all alone, as he should be, in his manner, looking a fool. He looks so tired and sad and dejected. And Rhys tells Tamlin that he needs to enforce the border to protect the humans from the Fae. And Tamlin's just like, I don't have any sentries left. What are you talking about? Like, your wife fucking took them all. like been there, done that.
So then Rhys like, isn't she a force? Like,
so then Rhys is like, fine, like I will send you some night court sentries, and Tamlin was like, no, like I don't want your fucking help, like absolutely not. Gets really pissy at him, goes off on him. He's like, look man, you fucked up, like these are the consequences, like you should have been a better boyfriend, should have been a better male than me. He's like, you earned it. You're being really pathetic, because he kind of is, but I also feel kind of bad for him because he is all alone.
I do. He obviously needs a support system. Okay, so then we go back to Feyre's perspective. Cassian comes home from Windhaven and Feyre's like, oh my God, I missed you. So they get really wine drunk and they decorate the house for solstice. It's super cute. Azriel walks in though and he's like, this place looks awful. So Elaine is in the kitchen helping Nuala and Caradwyn prepare dinner. And Feyre's like, hey, like, do you know, does Nesta plan to come tonight? And Elaine's like pissy and she's like, no, like I don't think she's coming. And so Feyre's like, what happened earlier? Because Elaine had gone to see her earlier that day, but Elaine like doesn't want to talk about it. So Feyre and Elaine are serving dinner. And then Azriel kind of comes over to help and like takes something from Elaine, and Elaine gets all tense and weird and like excuses herself from the room. Cassian tried to start eating, but Azriel got really weird and was like, no, we need to wait until everyone's seated at the table to start eating.
Just not Nesta?
Yeah, just not Nesta. Well, Nesta's definitely not coming at this point. So Feyre kind of speaks down the bond to Rhys in her mind, and she was like, what was that about? And Rhys says that Azriel sometimes gets sensitive when things remind him of how his mother was treated, because she was a servant who was basically closer to being a slave, and she was treated really poorly. So every once in a while it just like gets to him. So they also decide that it'd be good dinner conversation to talk about, like, now that Amran is in a new body, she actually has to shit. And so Elaine is like,
It's a really fun dinner conversation.
yeah, Elaine's like, Amran, why did you choose the body that you're in? And Amran's like, well, just because like women are hotter than men. True. And Elaine is like, so like, can you change it now that you're in that body? And Amran's like, there's no going back to being a human, Elaine. And Elaine is like, I don't even know what you're talking about. That's
It's
not
like,
what I was
fuck,
asking.
okay.
Yeah, and she gets really defensive. So after that dinner, Feyre decides to go and seek out Nesta to like confront her about why she didn't come over. But she isn't at her house. So Feyre's like, okay, I guess that means she's out at some seedy bar. So she shows up at a bar called the Wolf's Den, and Nesta's there. She's just playing cards with a few men. And
Besties.
yeah, besties. Feyre walks over and she tells the men to go away. And Nesta's like, hey, those were my friends. Feyre's like, why didn't you come to dinner? And Nesta's like, as I told Elaine, you have your lives and I have mine. And Feyre is like, okay, well, please at least like come to Solstice, because like it would make Feyre really sad for Nesta to not be there, but like she knows it would make Elaine even sadder. So Nesta is like, my rent is due soon. And Feyre's like, okay, well, come over for Solstice and I'll pay your rent for you.
You dumb bitch.
Yeah, messed up.
Then we have like a super short chapter from Rhysand's point of view. So basically he asks more if she will go to the continent to like renegotiate treaties, because if you remember, like you had like Monteser and like all of the Rask, like all those continents and stuff. And she needs to make sure that they're not threatening the human lands, because like we didn't really ever hear anything again about like what went down with them like after they sabotaged their involvement with Hybern. So now more is going over to make sure everything's cool.
Yeah. We kind of flip back to Feyre. Feyre and Elaine go out gift shopping together, and Feyre sees this like gorgeous tapestry, and it's woven out of this material that is so black it like devours the light around it. And then there's like an insignia in the middle made out of a thread that looks like woven starlight. It's like a silvery thread. So she sees the weaver who made it, and she's like, what is this? Like, this is horrifying and beautiful. And so the weaver tells her the fabric is called Void, and she made it when her husband didn't return from the war. And that like really sobers Feyre. She's like, oh shit, that could have been me. That like could have been Rhys. It was almost Rhys. And so Elaine is like, what is the silver thread called? And the weaver says it's called Hope. And she made that after she made the Void. And so Feyre is like, I want to buy that. And she bought the tapestry for herself. She later returns to that abandoned building to do some more painting. And Rosina walks in to clean because she's been taking care of it since Paulina died. And Rosina is like, hey, Paulina's family lives here. Like, if you want to go ask about buying this building. And Feyre's like, no, like, no, I couldn't. She feels so guilty. And so she walks outside and Rhys is there and he's like, why do you look so suspicious right now? And Feyre's like, do you think it would be a good idea to like open a studio and teach other people to paint? And of course, he's a supportive king as always. And he's like, that's a great idea. Why do you even need to ask?
Of course, you can have whatever you want to.
Yeah, he would literally give her anything in the world. And she's just like so worried that the answer should be no. And so Feyre then goes to Amran's apartment and is like, hey, have you heard from Nesta? Amran says, yeah, Nesta does come by and talk to me. And I think Feyre is a little disappointed to hear that, because Nesta is only seeking out Amran. She's not seeking out either of her sisters or Cassian or anyone else, but she's willing to kind of like understand that. And then Amran's like, yeah, like, I'm not going to talk to you about her. I don't want to betray her trust. So Feyre's like,
really dick move, but like, okay.
I know.
Like, I guess you kind of
get it. It's tough. Like, that's a tough situation.
Yes. So then we flip back to Rhysand. So everyone except for Nesta arrives at the townhouse on Solstice Eve to begin their festivities. She's a little hoe. Feyre is like super bummed, but Rhys reminds her that she invited Nesta for tomorrow, so she still might come because he is our little ray of optimism.
Except whenever it has anything to do with himself, then he's absolutely a pessimist.
He's like a super sad boy.
Yeah. He's emo. He's an emo boy.
He's going through his emo phase.
I fell in love with an emo boy. So then we're back to Feyre.
Another short Rhys chapter.
I know. I feel like I keep getting like these lengthy little sections here. But so Feyre, she wakes up. It's solstice and it's also her birthday. So she rolls over and Rhys is like showering her with birthday gifts. He got her this sketchbook, a scarf, and a new satchel for her painting supplies. And Feyre is like, hey, I want to draw you nude. And so then she like starts to fill up her new sketchbook. And he's like, absolutely, yes. So then Rhys, Azriel, and Cassian go to participate in their holiday tradition, which Feyre is not yet familiar with. So she kind of goes upstairs to look through the budget just to see, like, could I buy this studio? And she realizes, yeah, I could, but she feels really guilty.
A million of them.
Yeah, she feels so guilty, like, spending anything on herself because she considers it frivolous. So she goes to the kitchen and Elaine is baking some stuff. Elaine asks Feyre if she's heard anything from Nesta, and then there's a knock at the door. So they both get really excited thinking that it's Nesta, but they open it and it's just Lucian looking awkward. So Lucian is like, hey, so yeah. And they're just kind of making small talk and he's like, yeah, when I'm not here or at the spring court, I've been staying with Jurian and Vasa. And he's working as the human emissary there. And so he tells them that Vasa and Jurian, they have the same vision, but they kind of butt heads on what they're going to do to make that vision happen. And so Elaine is feeling uncomfortable. She kind of leaves the room. And Lucian asks Feyre how Elaine's doing. Feyre tells him, like, look, she was super in love with Grayson. She needs time. She's mourning the loss of this relationship. And she tells Lucian he should come stay in the townhouse with them for a couple weeks and spend time with Elaine. And Lucian he's kind of like on edge from this conversation. And he's explaining, I stay with Jurian and Vasa because we're all exiles. Like, Tamlin decided to kick me out again. And he's super uncomfortable staying at the night court because Elaine like can hardly even look at him and he hates having Rhys pay for anything. So Lucian is like, you know what, I'm gonna leave. And he brought them gifts for solstice. So he's like, this one's for you and that one's for Elaine. He's a sweet pea.
None for Nesta though.
Not to Nesta, is that what you said?
So none for Nesta.
Oh yeah, none for Nesta. She doesn't deserve it. You know what? She gets a lump of coal this year. Mm-hmm. So Feyre goes back to Elaine. She's like, hey, Lucian left, just so you know. And she's like, maybe you could like try talking to him. Elaine gets pissy at the thought. And Feyre's like, I'm sorry. It's just like, I don't want to see either of you unhappy. And so she goes back out to like the living room area and Moore is immediately offering her a drink because she's a lush. And she's like, hey, I recommend like staying out of it because neither of them are ready for it. And
Moore deserves to give all the relationship advice in the world.
Yeah, Moore would know, huh? So then Moore's like, let's go do something fun. So she winnows Feyre to like up to where the cabin is, where Feyre like, you know, painted all the walls and stuff. And she's like, here's what the boys are up to. They're having a massive snowball fight, like with snow forts and all sorts of like elaborate like things.
The cutest thing I've ever read in my life.
It's very wholesome. They have like rules to it. They're not allowed to use magic, and it's like the blood right, but it's a snowball fight. So then Moore and Feyre just go inside while the boys just like have their little time together. That night, they all gather back at the townhouse for their solstice party. they're like, happy birthday, Farah. And they bring her a cake, and it's really cute. It's decorated like the drawers were that Farah painted for her and her sisters. And they're just starting to get into presents when Nesta knocks at the door. Farah lets her in. It's super tense and uncomfortable, but they resume their gifts exchange, and Nesta just kind of sits there awkwardly. Literally, the only person who gave Nesta a gift was Elaine. It was an uncomfortable evening. But when the night's over, Farah kind of meets Nesta at the doorway to give her money for the rent, and Farah's hoping like that she won't take it, but she does. And she doesn't even say a word. She just takes the money and walks out the door. So Farah's like standing there feeling dejected, and Cassian just like pushes her gently to the side and storms out the door after Nesta.
Yeah, so then we get Cassian's point of view, and he's like, absolutely fuck that nonsense. Like, we're not doing that. And so he like is like, Nesta, I'm gonna walk you home. I don't care what you say, like I'm taking you home. And she was like, no, like I'm not doing that. And he like was like, yep, no, I am. So he follows her. And he hands her a present that has taken him so long to find. Like he has been working very thoughtfully on this gift for her. And she refuses it. And she was like, no, I don't want a single thing from you, specifically you, which is bullshit, but whatever.
Oh yeah.
So Cassian tells her that he's tired of playing games with her, and she argues that she doesn't even want to be here. Like she's like, then don't. Like no one asked you to do that, basically. And he was like, are you joking right now? Like
yeah,
after all we've been through. So his anger kind of falters, and he like is begging her to talk to him. Tells him to leave her alone, because like he can tell she is not in a good headspace. Like she's drinking, she's going out all the time, like just looks like she's like death on legs. I think he's just very scared for her safety and like, you know, her mental well-being. So after she tells him basically to frick off, he doesn't follow her home and just like chucks her gift into the Sidra, watches it sink to the bottom.
yeah, which is really sad.
Really sad for Cassian. Hated that chapter.
I know, it really hurt my feelings. But then we shift to Nesta's wow.
Nesta.
Nesta. Then we shift to Nesta's perspective.
It's Nesta, isn't it?
We're like, listen, I am mad at her, but this chapter it's fucked up. You're like, oh damn. She gets back to her house. She locks like 4 locks on the door, and she just kind of slides down the wall and sits on the floor. She's freezing. The house is so cold, but she can't light a fire because the sound of wood crackling triggers her PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Because to her, when she hears the wood crackle in the fire, it sounds like her father's neck being snapped by the king. And so she was literally just sitting there in silence, and it's awful.
Then the silence in that book was deafening.
Yeah.
Was saying a lot. So then we return back to Farah's point of view. So Reese winnows Farah to the cabin after everyone's gone to bed for their own little private solstice celebration. And Farah asks, what?
I said.
And so Farah asks Reese to change the tattoos on her palms from the eyes to the night court insignia so that she matches the ones that are on his knees. And I think that's really cute. Makes me want to get tattooed knees. So the next morning, they return to Valaris, and Reese shows Farah her solstice gift, and he bought a whole estate along the Sidra. It was from one of the families. I think they vacated it, and he purchased it so that they could build their dream home there.
Yeah, it's super cute.
So cute.
Yeah, and then so we're back to Reese now, his perspective, and he decides to go back to the spring court and tell Tamlin like, hey, summer court can lend you soldiers instead, because Tamlin didn't want night court soldiers on his territory because he's a little bitch. And Tamlin's like, I don't care about that. Do you think Farah will ever forgive me? And Reese is like,
fuck your problems anyway.
Reese is like, do you want her to forgive you? And he's like, do I deserve it? And Reese in his mind is like, no,
you silly goose.
So Tamlin's like, Reese, do you forgive me for what I've done to you? And Reese is like, hey, bestie, I don't recall you ever saying sorry. So
exactly what I said.
I know.
We'll have apologized.
Yeah, loser. So yeah, Reese is just kind of like, Tamlin, take care of yourself. Like, we can't afford to have you dying right now. So I'll check in with you later. And he just leaves.
It's like, Tamlin, God bless you and your broken soul. I'll be back, I guess.
Yeah, I'll be back to make sure you're alive.
Doesn't like jump off the roof of the estate.
He'd be fine though. He's
You'd
like
be
hyper.
fine.
Mhm.
So anyway, we flash back to Precious Moore. So after the solstice, she is like, I need to really clear my head here. And because she has this whole journey coming up. And it's a really important one. Anyway, so she has this whole I hate her so much.
So sorry. Okay.
Sorry. So she has this whole secret estate. It's called Athelwood. And she's apparently just had it for 300. She's really
Wow. Okay, I need to take like 2 deep breaths and I'm good.
She's had this estate for 300 years, unbeknownst to literally everyone else. So she's having this whole internal debate about going to the continent for Reese. She really wants to, and she knows that she probably needs to for him, but she also knows it's gonna upset Azriel and Cassian for her to go off on her own because she cares so much about their well-being and mental health. Anyway, there's like fucking ghosts or something like on this whole property. Also a bunch of horses. Moore's a horse girl. No rhyme or reason to this estate. I don't really know why we talked about it, but yeah, so Moore has a haunted estate with a bunch of horses.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry for losing it there. That's very unprofessional of me. But yeah, so we go back to Farah. We leave the demonic forest and her cute little ponies behind, and we're back to Farah's perspective. She went to see Paulina's family to purchase the building, and they're just like, you know what, we're actually just gonna give this to you. And we want you to take that money that you were going to use to buy it and donate that to this like specific charity that is basically for artists who can't afford supplies. So she asks
Not the
Racina.
starving children of Valaris, but that's
Yeah, they're like, who cares about like the war ravaged lands? We need to donate this to the artists. Which, no shade, like we love artists.
It's fine.
It's just funny, like given the circumstances. Their daughter literally died in war, and they were like, you know what?
Make sure you buy those little tots their own paintbrushes.
So Farah's like, hey, Racina, like, will you be business partners with me? Because I don't know how to do this on my own. And Racina agrees because she's a sweetheart.
So we flip back to Rhysand again. And Rhys and Cass have returned to the Windhaven, not the Windhaven. And they see that there's a small amount of girls training. And so the land is healing, the girls are training, and peace has come upon the land. So Cassian has learned that there's a large amount of dissent coming from the Iron Crest camp, which is a rival of Windhaven, because apparently the Illyrians do nothing but fight each other constantly. They just can't be happy or peaceful. So now he has to deal with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like dick swinging contests.
They're just like all bunch of savages.
Yeah, they're horrible to each other and to everyone else. Honestly, like they might be worse to each other than they are to others.
Honestly.
So we go back, we end the novella from Farah's perspective. A month has passed and Farah and Racina open the doors to their new studio. They're hosting their very first painting class, which is completely free to all of the students. Farah is like, they are going to have like all the supplies that they need provided to them. They will never have to pay a single penny. And she just wants them to learn how to paint. And it turns out to be very therapeutic for these children because like the first prompt is she tells them to paint a memory, and one of the children paints a horrible like bloody battle scene.
She's like, these are my parents.
Yeah, I'm an orphan. So Farah, like, she wraps up the class and Rhys comes to like meet with her to ask how it went because he's a little sweetie pie. and like they just kind of walk home together and they have a sweet little moment. They're like, I love you so much, like I'm so grateful for you, and they just walk home together just happy and in love, and that's how our novella ends.
Oh, I forgot to mention like the super cringy sex scene. It's fine.
Well,
We're gonna
okay.
talk more about that in part 2.
We
Stay
are going to
tuned.
talk more about that. Yeah, I think I just didn't write it down because it upset me so much. But yeah, we will talk about that. Unfortunately, since we had to suffer through it, so do the
So
rest
do
of
you.
you. Yeah.
But that wraps up part 1. Come check out part 2. We're gonna dive a little bit deeper into the novella, break it down for you.
So in part 1, we gave a synopsis of the novella, and in part 2, we're going to kind of dive into a little bit more of the details, a little bit more of the book club discussion.
So we're gonna kick it off with some overall ratings of our thoughts and feelings about the book. So I'll start us off. I love this book because it is the cutest just Christmas special that you could ever ask for from Miss Sarah J. I called a money grab, but it's not. I love you, Sarah. Is it like a super important book? No, it's not. There was no point in writing this, and I love it. 10 out of 10 for me personally. That's not true. It's more like a 7 out of 10 for me because there was some cringy content in this book. Sarah, what the heck? But
Yeah.
It was still really cute, but kind of pointless. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. I do like it a lot because it's warm, fuzzy vibes. One of my guilty pleasures during the Christmas season is just watching all of the horrible like Hallmark style movies. They're not necessarily Hallmark like produced, but just a cheesy Christmas movie. I am an absolute sucker for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the vibes are absolutely wonderful. Yeah, as far as cringe factor, there were some things that were like really channeling Stephenie Meyer.
Not acceptable.
Not acceptable, and we will get into detail about those here in a moment. But yeah, my overall rating, I agree with you, 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
I think on the Goodreads rating system, I did give it 4 out of 5 stars just because I love the the Christmas vibes. But yeah, there are some
Christmas vibes.
It's not perfect. So first we're going to talk about some things that we liked. So you want to start us off?
Yes. So my favorite part of this entire book is the snowball fight with Azriel, Cassian, yes, and Reese. So they haven't gotten to do this in a very long time because Reese was trapped under the mountain, also under Amarantha. And so they
Gross.
So they get to have their very first annual snowball fight, and I don't know, it's really just cute to see the Bat Boys kind of being childish and enjoying each other's company, and it's something they grew up doing, and you get to see how they were before everything.
Yeah, it's very sweet and wholesome. And just the fact that Moore and Farah just kind of show up in the cabin, just kind of watch them from the windows. It's very sweet.
Also the moment after when they're like all in like the steam room, that cracks me up too.
Yes. Yeah, they all after their snowball fight, they go and take like a steam together, like in a sauna basically, to warm up. And so Farah was messing with Reese and like sending dirty thoughts down the bond. Yeah, she was mind sexting him, and it got Reese kicked out into the cold naked. It was just funny. We also, another thing that we liked is just the fact that we get the multiple point of views, especially Cassian, because we love him as a character. He's amazing. He's a great friend. And we love him and his kind heart, even if Nesta is a hoe.
She's a hoe.
She is a hoe. And Tabby also brought up a good point, and she's like, why did Azriel not get a point of view?
Right. Like we get everyone else. Why not Azriel?
Yeah, I would gladly trade Azriel for Morgan. Oh my god, we'll get there.
Fuck more.
But yeah, we did love like the fact that we get other people's point of views.
Yes. I also, one of my favorite scenes from this entire book is Cassian and Feyre channeling their inner Martha Stewarts and their inner Joanna Gaines and decorating the entire townhome for the winter solstice, getting drunk, having a good old time. Asriel being the responsible adult he is, being like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And knowing deep down that he was enjoying it. He was enjoying what was happening.
100%. And it's so funny because when Rhys gets home, like, so Feyre and Cassian are drunk off their asses.
They're like, this is amazing what we've done here.
Yes, they're like, it's so beautiful. And Asriel's like, it's not. But they had like handed the bottle of wine to Asriel. And that's right when Rhys walked in and he was like, like, what the fuck are you doing with my wine? And Asriel's like, I swear it wasn't me.
Stormy, you look just like mommy, baby.
Yeah, no kidding. Another thing that we loved is just Feyre opening up the painting studio with Racina. Just super sweet. Like, Feyre's finally getting to like heal part of herself that she's been trying to heal for so long, and like give back to the people of her city that she cares about so much. It's amazing.
The children.
The children. Think of the children.
Thanks, Feyre. Here are some things that we really did not care much for in the list. Unfortunately, it's a bit longer than the things we did like. Let's kick us off, Caitlin. What did you not like about it?
I am opening the page right now.
So read this page to you.
By the way, shout out to my gal Ellie for letting me borrow her book because mine's not currently home. But so, okay, page 48. Ma'am, Sarah, nobody was asking what Fae menstrual cycles were like, but you felt the need to not only like tell us, but to go in excruciating detail. And I mean like multiple
unnecessary detail.
Okay. So again, if we had to suffer through it, so do you. So in place of those monthly human discomforts was a biannual week of stomach shredding agony. So she couldn't even get out of bed. This is Feyre's like perspective. And like the healer couldn't even help her pain, like, which doesn't make sense because like the Fae have been having freaking menstrual cycles for how many centuries, and you've done nothing to be able to like sort that out. Moore had little to offer me beyond commiseration and ginger tea. At least it was only twice a year she'd consoled me. It's weird. It's weird. She talks about how like Rhys like cleans her off and stuff, and I'm like,
I forgot about that. Yeah. Unfortunately, this will not be the last time she chats about this with us either.
So many things like against our will in this book.
Like, I didn't want to read that, but here I am. Another thing that we did not care much for in this book was Feyre's snap decision to suddenly fucking want kids. First
like
of all,
within the span of a week.
In the span of a week. So in book 2, you can remember she's like, I need you to get me whatever will keep me from being with child, like stat. Thank you so much. Yeah. Because Rhys was like, it would be the greatest pleasure of my life for you to give me a child. And she was like, cool, but no, thank you. So page 40,
corn dog.
She's like, no, thank you though. Page 49, she's like, yeah, I wanted to live with him. I want to experience life with him and just kind of be with him before they have children, which, sis, that's great. I love that for you. Not even like 150 pages later, page 201, she was like, I would love to show you something in my head if you could. It will be the greatest gift to you on earth. And so she shows him like a picture of their unborn child, and she was like, I would love this, thank you. And he was like, are you joking right now? Like, are you sure? And she was like, yeah, I would love nothing more than to give you a child. And we're like,
are you shitting my dick?
Okay. Sure.
It also bothers me too, because like she claims at that point, like in her inner monologue, she doesn't say this out loud to Rhys, but she's like, when she talked to the weaver who had lost her husband, she's like, yeah, it made me realize that I want kids. And like, it made me see clearly what I'd wanted for quite some time now. Like, ma'am, literally a week ago, you were like,
did not want that.
I don't want kids. And I'm sorry, if only a week has passed and you're like, maybe I should think about having kids, let it sit for another week
Let's
or
do like
so.
a really quick pros and cons chart, perhaps.
Yeah, like a minimum, like give that like sleep on it, because
Like you've got forever. Give it like 10 years.
yeah, you're literally like immortal now. Like chill, absolutely chill, because a week ago you were not wanting that. So I just don't get it personally.
Not even the freaking bone carver being the picture of your child itself made you want to have children. Like,
Yeah, if
not
anything, that
even
creeps you
seeing
out.
your child in the flesh made you want to have it.
I guess why this really bothers us is like, well, neither one of us like the pregnancy trope in general.
Pregnancy trope is a waste of my time.
Oh my God, I hate it, especially when it's an unplanned pregnancy trope. So this one, at least it's planned. It has that going for it. But I think like it just ruins a good thing. Like, I'm sorry.
A fucking
I feel
child
like
is
I'm gonna get some nasty emails.
yeah, like like we're super happy for women who choose to have families, who choose to be
Yeah.
mothers. Really awesome for you guys. I don't want to read that in a book.
And what bothers me is because like, yes, absolutely. If you are a woman who is like, I would, or a man who's like, I would love to have children, like that would mean the world to me.
Yeah.
That's great.
Nothing but respect for you.
Farrah, Farrah did not feel that way. And so what is this? Like, what has changed? Because having a child with Reese does not make your love like any deeper. Like, I don't like that
Yeah. I don't like
idea.
the thought process.
Yeah, like I am very much in love with my husband. Like, we do not need to have a kid for me to prove how much I love my husband. I think that's a gross, like outdated thought process.
Very antiquated.
Yeah, we don't like that. It's icky vibes.
Sarah, we didn't like that.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah. I know you have like at least one beautiful child. I don't know if there are more.
Now a second one.
Love that for you.
That was a surprise for all of us. Really happy for you.
Oh, yeah. That's the only one I knew about. Beautiful baby.
Beautiful child.
Love that for you. Not for Farrah.
What else do we not like? Nesta.
Yeah.
In general.
Do we really need to elaborate on that?
No, we don't, because Nesta
yeah.
sucks. She sucked the whole book and she is crotchety.
Didn't like her, didn't like her attitude. Oh, do you want to talk about the next one? I feel like
yes, I do, because I have a lot to say. Sarah, what
Bestie.
the fuck, dog? So she has given us this exquisite, steamy, beautiful sex scene between Farrah and Reese. Like, we have not gotten anything steamy this whole book, like nothing. And she was like, last chapter, like, here we go, guys. Like, I'm going to give you them being together one last time. And we're like, fuck yes. And no,
and like it starts off hot. Like,
it's good. It's a good scene.
Yeah.
Like, lots of description. We love that. And then she was like, Reese, like, let me show you something. This is when she's like, let me show you a picture of our unborn child that we have not quite created yet. That we will make together one day, according to the bone carver. And you want to know what fucking happens?
You won't like it.
I didn't like it. They both climax from the vision of their unborn child. What?
So I'm gonna read a little something
Sarah?
to y'all. I am going to read a little something to y'all.
I was unwell.
Okay. So where we at? I'm so sorry.
It's just disgusting.
Okay. So when my mind could form words, when I could when I could again feel his essence around me, his body still moving in my own, I sent him that image one last time. And by that image, she means the literal image of their child, their
from
unborn
the bone carver.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. That is very much
and he immediately like just
Jacob
fucking
and Rigatoni from Twilight.
He climaxed like the second he sees it, he was like, yeah, that does me in. It's like, what?
It's disgusting. I hate that so much. Who?
God bless.
What we also didn't love was that like Reese's first point of view, like it made him seem like he literally could not for the life of him stop thinking about banging Farah. And that just feels very out of character for him. Like, don't get me wrong. He
We
loves
wanted him to bang Farah.
Yeah. Listen, he loves to bang his wife. I love that. Love that for him so much. But the fact that he like can't even focus on anything else, like on in his day-to-day like routine, that's like a little much.
It was like a gross description too, though. He's like, yeah, I need to like fuck my wife. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Like
that was like the
like
first
it's a like she's a stress ball.
I didn't
I
like
don't know.
that.
I didn't
For
like
him
it
being
either.
like so pro women, like we so feminist. He's just like, yeah, if I don't like get into my wife like right this second, I'm gonna die. And it's like, I love the energy, love that for you. But also that's not you.
Yeah, it's really not. Like they are a very intimate couple and that's great, but it's
I don't know.
just
It just seemed very off character for him, off brand.
it seemed demeaning
Yeah.
to Farah, and he is anything but demeaning to Farah.
Right.
So yeah, I agree that just it didn't seem quite like him. I don't know if it was supposed to like show that he was like extra tense. I don't know, but I didn't like it.
I didn't like it. Next, we would love to dive a little bit deeper into the characters and relationships. Not as much, I think, character development as we saw in the third book, thank God. But we do still see how like some of the relationships and the dynamics are forming between some of the characters. I think it does give a dead giveaway for what the next book is going to be about. But starting off with Lucian and Elaine, the couple who I strongly believe was not meant to be.
Yeah. 100.
Unfortunate lovers. So poor Lucy, poor Lucian. He's trying so hard to be a good mate. Like he's trying so hard to be a good mate. He brings her presents, like he is giving her all the space she needs because he knows like she's dealing with some shit, like some trauma. She's kidnapped, she was broken up with.
Yeah.
And like still, but like at the same time, like on the same token, like obviously he is not privy to her, like she's not his, but also like she's not being very understanding of the situation in my opinion, but also I get it from her point of view.
I do. I just think that she could be honest with him and like talk to him, but she hasn't even tried to do that. Yeah.
So Lucian kind of is just like kicking it in the human realm. He is hanging out with Durian and Vasa, which I think is so funny. Deep down in my heart, I think they're probably a throuple.
Oh yeah.
Personally.
Probably. I could see it.
Like, yeah, they're together. And I think honestly, he's like hanging in the human realm because he can't feel his bond because magic doesn't work as well, like in the human realm. But I don't know if that's true because the wall is down now. So who's to say?
That's true.
Yeah, I don't actually know why he finds great.
But I do wonder though if distance could still like muffle it. Like,
maybe.
I guess probably not. Because when Pharaoh's in the spring court, she could have felt it. Like if she hadn't been,
He still felt Reese.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know why he's hanging out in the human realm. Good for him though. Glad he has other friends. Elaine just doing her little Elaine thing, being weird with Azriel, hanging out with Noel and Caradwin.
She like
sketchy.
She's leading on multiple men.
Yeah, it's like, what girlie, what's going on with Azriel? Why is he so weird around you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's definitely some tension. Like Azriel has a little crush on Elaine. Elaine might have a little crush on Azriel. I'm not sure. She could also just be playing it to her advantage.
I think she's just playing the field, and like Nuala and Caradwin are teaching her all sorts of things back in the kitchen.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. And we have a lot of thoughts about Elaine to come. So Reese and Farah's sisters, he is super pissed at her sisters for like what they like, how they let Farah like go into the woods as a child. Not like he just is like, how could they have done that to you? But he is really only pissed at Nesta. And so Farah's like, if you're pissed at Nesta, you have to be pissed at Elaine too. And he's like, well, Elaine is Elaine. No.
What does that mean?
No. And it's like, it's because everyone takes pity on Elaine, but it's like, she just like she's just as much to blame. Like if anything, I would be more mad at her because at least Nesta owned up to what she was doing, and Elaine just acts like innocent and naive. Like,
well, on top of that, Elaine literally had the skills in gardening to like help their family and chose not to do that. And I think everyone just chooses to like forget that she could have helped but
she
didn't.
could have helped, and she actively chose not to. Like we're saying like she actively like worked against her family's well-being.
Because she was like, we just didn't know better. And it's like, shut the fuck up, Elaine. Yes, you did.
Sorry. You had a better education than Farah, who didn't even learn how to read before y'all got kicked out of your house. So yeah, everyone is giving Elaine a pass, and it sucks. It doesn't make sense.
I hate Elaine.
Mm-hmm.
Reese and Farah, their whole dynamic, it's just beautiful throughout the entire book. I'm really happy to see them get like a happy ending. Page 54, he's like, I want to do Even Under the Mountain. Like he knew he has been in love with her for as long as he's seen her. He says that in book 2, he says that in book 3, like we know he loves her very, very much. Love that we are finally getting that point of view from Rhysand. As much as I did not love the first point of view we get from him, it's still really nice to see like how he's still kind of struggling with his inner demons. Like he usually is the one of like the voice of reason and the one who kind of brings Feyre down. So it's good to see that he can like humanize himself as well, I think. Love that they have like the little matching night court tattoos. That's such a sweet moment between the two when she wants to match him and get the Ramiel Mountain on her palm. The fact that like all the gowns that he had made for her was actually made by his mother, and like that's super, super sweet. Although I think it's weird that she just like kind of knew her size. I don't know. Magic may be involved, who's to say?
Yeah, I wonder if like they were later, like if the gowns were made, but maybe they were enchanted or something.
I'm hoping so. Otherwise, it's very non-inclusive of you, Mom.
Yeah, I feel like it had to have been, because like she could have like been any size. So
fair. The cabin scene, freaking amazing up until we talk about their stupid little babies that they want to have. Like leave it out. We don't want to see that. Everything up to that though was so good. And then like just saying like how happy she makes him, how happy they make each other, and then ending with the the famous quote, "To the stars who listen, Farah, to the dreams that are answered, Reese." Like just I don't know, the ending that they finally get. Obviously like book 4, technically it's book 4, is going to be about Cassian and Nesta and following their little adventures. So wrapping up the story, I think, of Reese and Feyre and finally getting a little bit of a happy ever after. Obviously there's some other stuff going on that they're trying to solve and put to peace, but we do get to see them finally happy with each other.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful too. You get to see them building that future together when he like gifts her the estate to build their dream home on, and he's like, build a library, like build a garden for Elaine, build a nursery. Like he's just like, build this house that will hold all of our family. It's like, it's a very sweet ending for them.
Yes.
Then we're gonna talk about more. Oh, freaking goodness, pardon my French. So they go to the Hewn City.
God.
Mor is like having her little like flashback of like how Eris left her. She's super pissed like anytime she's near her dad, and so she's like, say something. And in her inner monologue she's like, quit being a coward, truth is your gift, truth is your curse. Mor, when have you ever been fucking truthful?
Like, you're not even being truthful to yourself, you dumb hoe.
You're not truthful to yourself. You're not truthful to the inner circle. You literally have a secret estate that you go to for the past 300 years. You won't come out and tell Azriel that you're not in love with him. You won't like even tell, like, you admitted to Feyre this, but you won't tell anyone else that you've known for freaking 5 centuries. It's just like, what does that mean? What is truth to you? I would love to know her definition.
Because I don't think that she's even being truthful about what happened with Eris. Like, I think she's lying about it. I think something else happened and she's not telling us what happened.
What if Mor is just, she's a pathologic liar, and she just told someone that truth is her gift, but it was just a lie.
But it's not. It's actually lying. Lying's her gift.
Lying is my gift. Lying is my curse. So on page 125, it's from Reese's perspective here. And he like, this is when he's asking Moore to go to the continent. And like, he sees like something in her eyes change. And so like, this is his inner monologue. He's like, a predator. There was a reason she held her own in battle and could hold her own against any Illyrian. Okay. And what is the reason?
What would that be?
What is the reason? Because we are in suspense. We've been in suspense for like 2.5 books now. I would love to know. Share with the
Why
class.
is she a predator? What can she do?
What can she do besides say that truth is her gift, but it's not actually like true?
Like, she has done nothing. Not even it pisses me off still. Not even in the battle against Highburn did she do anything phenomenal or excellent. Like,
no, they had to go get a bunch of monsters.
Yeah, she just
Briaxis is still
like,
out because of it.
Like,
Briaxis
what can she do?
She did nothing. Like, I'm so mad.
Did nothing. Anyway, a few more. Almost as much as Nesta.
Yeah,
So,
honestly.
Next, we'd like to talk about possibly Asriel and Elaine. Is that a thing? Hopefully not.
I really hope not. But like, what worries me is that like there could be a future book from Asriel's perspective and it'll focus too much on Elaine. That's what I'm worried about.
I guess it would based off of what the next book is about, I suppose. But I hope not. Like, I think that'd just be so like such a cop out if she's just like, and they all three got the girl, and it's like, no, ew.
I would hate that.
I hate that.
I would hate that. And when we talk about the next book, like, you guys will know there's someone very specific that we ship Asriel with, and it is not Elaine.
And it sure isn't Elaine.
No.
I hate Elaine with a burning passion, and I am out here to prove that she is evil.
Yeah. Join us for our TED Talk next full-length episode in a couple weeks.
God, like, I'm not thrilled with Elaine, and I'm not thrilled that she flirts with Asriel. You know, them like being all cutesy at winter solstice. Like, I'd rather gag myself with a spoon.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Barf.
Woof.
So next, I just kind of wanted to touch on Amran and Nesta, because so Nesta's been visiting Amran a couple times a week or so, like, and that's the only person she's reaching out to. And as far as we know, like, based on what Amran revealed to Feyre, like, they don't even really talk about like what's going on with Nesta. But I think Nesta just feels like she can't confide in anyone else because no one else will understand. Like, Nesta and Amran understand each other. And of course, it's not like a healthy mindset for Nesta to have to push everyone else away. But I think she's just like coping by like the only person she's letting in is like also like her in the way that she's not touchy-feely at all. Like, she knows Amran isn't going to press her to talk about her feelings, but it keeps her from being like completely and utterly alone, I think, by like keeping Amran close to her.
Well, on top of that too, Amran was the only person who was like, no, we need to train this girl, and like she's got something really special going on here that we could use. And I think like Amran made Nesta feel useful. It made her feel like she had a purpose. And so I think she has a lot of respect for Amran, because like Rhys wasn't going to do that because he held a grudge against her. Feyre wasn't going to do that because she didn't want to put her sister in like at risk. Like, no one else knew her well enough to do that, but Amran was the only one who was like, no, like, she can help, and Nesta wants to be helpful.
Yeah, and it's very similar to like how Feyre felt too, like at the spring court. She was like, no, like, I can help. And I don't think that Feyre realizes what she was doing. Like, in book 3, she was very much acting like her sister's keeper.
Right.
And she was like, no, we can't do anything that puts them in danger. Like, they've already been through too much. But like,
she wants to.
Yeah. And Nesta, like, she got dragged into this against her will. So like, the least you can do is ask her what role she wants to play. But Feyre was just very much afraid of like them getting further damaged.
Right.
So yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so lots of character development. We'll definitely see some more in the next book. So far the last book in the series. Fingers crossed the next one will be out soon. But moving on to my favorite part of the podcast are the theories. So I want to talk a little bit more about Moore's fucking stabbing cabin. Like, what is going on with the haunted mansion that she has owned for 300 years that no one else happens to know about in the middle of nowhere? Giving Bly Manor feels, giving on Haunted Hill type vibes. Ghosts everywhere, like creepy shit happening. Apparently she's a horse girl. That's odd to me that she has this. I don't know.
Feel like she could potentially be doing her like own like operation,
That's what I'm thinking.
like I don't know if it's for the Night Court's benefit though. That's kind of what remains unseen, is it
I mean, she hasn't given us any reason to believe that she's working against the Night Court, but also the fact that like they keep talking about all these cool powers that she has and she's choosing not to use them. Like, I don't know. Or okay, so something that I also thought about was like, what if she has like a secret child that she's like raising in this cabin? Like
that, like I would be very interested in that storyline, but I guess it would kind of like beg the question, would the child be a secret?
I just want to know like what the fuck she has like in this cabin, like why she has it. Is it just like simply a place that she goes to? Like, is she murdering people here? Like, is she torturing folks? Like,
from her chapter, from her perspective, made it sound like she just goes there for peace and quiet. But listen, at least, okay, here's my deal, because like the inner circle, they're all like, they've always been kind of like targets to people, because like, you know, they have a lot, especially before Highburn, before they kind of revealed to people like, hey, we're not hard asses, they have a lot of targets on their back. So let's say you are just going somewhere for peace and quiet, you need to at least tell your family,
like a singular other person.
yeah, like shoot them a little text message, be like, hey, going to my estate, like XOXO more.
On top of that, how has she kept this from Rhysand this whole time? Like, how is he not? Like, I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's just like she's had this place for 300 years.
That's
and
strange
it's
to me.
never come up. And is it one of those things that it's like now it just feels too awkward for her to say anything?
Like, oh yeah, this is my summer home. Welcome.
Yeah, more like, why have you never hosted Solstice, bitch? I don't know. It's really weird to me, especially with this whole like storyline of truth is her gift. Then why can she lie so much?
Well, on top of that, she has like actual fucking demons living outside of her home. And she's just like, oh yeah, like that's Frank.
Yeah,
He's
she's
fine.
like, just go the other way, like don't go investigate and it's fine.
It's like, no, it's probably not. You acted way too normal for that.
Yeah, there's definitely like as long as she doesn't have this place for nefarious reasons, like I guess go off, queen, like have fun. But I don't like, also, I don't know, I would kind of be there for her being like a secret serial killer who kills the Night Court enemies.
Maybe if it's enemies, but like I feel like she'd do it for. What if it's like all of like the women who are like in the bottom of the library? She like actually goes out and like snatches like their like assaulters, like kills them in the haunted house.
Ooh, okay, listen.
That'd be kind of fucking cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I would forgive everything I ever said about Moore. I would forgive if
in a heartbeat
that story is written.
But I don't think that's what it is.
I don't either. I think that Moore is not cool enough, to be honest.
Also, if like she never touches on this again, I'm going to be pissed that she even put that in the book.
Yeah, like what would be the reason?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things about Moore that like she's touched on that if she doesn't elaborate on, I'm gonna be pissed.
Why?
Yeah.
The next theory that I want to kind of touch on is like Vasa and her keeper. I don't understand what's going on with that.
No.
Why would her keeper, first of all, allow her out? Obviously, I think Feyre's father made some sort of bargain with him. I talked about this last episode. I think
Yeah.
he made some bargain with him to release her from her prison. But why would he allow her to stay out and continue helping like the human realm? Like there's not like a deadline that he's given her or anything. Like she's just out chilling.
Yeah.
Like that seems weird, right?
It does seem weird. So I feel like there has to be some like agenda of like her keeper, who we're going to learn more about. We
In the
can't
next
say
book.
anything else. But yeah, like I wonder if the agenda could have,
He has
I
her
don't
doing some
know.
extra stuff like on the
Yeah,
outside.
and that's definitely not revealed in the next book either, but like yeah,
No.
it's totally all theorized. I just don't understand, like there has to be something in it for her keeper.
Right.
Otherwise, like
He would have been
why
like,
would
no,
he
you can't
bother?
borrow her.
Yeah, like he just likes to keep his slaves and like live his little like fun little like evil life, you know? He
Right.
doesn't want his slaves just doing their own thing. He's like, no, I own that.
Yep.
So it is weird.
My final theory has to do with Tamlin and the future that he plays in whatever happens to be coming in the next book, in the next, bit of series, I guess. So clearly he's not in a good state. Reese is helping him for, selfish purposes. He wants to make sure he's not going to fall off the deep end. But I do think he's going to end up being a key player in the next book. So my theory is that whenever the sisters were dropped into the cauldron, and they came back out, I think the cauldron misfired. And I think Tamlin was actually supposed to be Elaine's mate and not Lucian. And I think this because, first of all, there's a zero chemistry between Elaine and Lucian. Fucking crazy pants.
Yeah.
But it would also just make more sense that Elaine belongs in the spring court. So like Tamlin, like, okay, all Elaine wants is like some goddamn peace and quiet, I think. And like she wants comfort and she wants to not have to do anything. And I think Tamlin wants the same thing. Like he wants comfort. He doesn't want to do anything. He just wants to he wants to vibe and be there. And so
he
it's
literally
like,
he wants an Elaine.
Man.
Yeah, he wanted Feyre to be an Elaine, like wear pretty dresses and tend the beautiful gardens.
Yes.
And I will do the rest. And Feyre was like, no.
And that's
Elaine would say yes.
Yes. So it makes so much sense in my head that Elaine and Tamlin were actually supposed to be together, not Elaine and Lucian. And like Feyre even said something about this. Like she asked, could the cauldron misfire? Can the cauldron make wrong choices? Like, yeah, maybe. And yeah, I think they did.
I absolutely think it could, because it's just kind of sending out a blast of power, you know?
Like it could just fucking hit the wrong person. No, I think Elaine and Tamlin are mates. I don't know how it'll happen, but I think they were supposed to be.
Yeah. I wonder, like, well, I mean, Feyre asked if it could misfire, but I wonder, like, is there a way for the misfire to be fixed? I don't know.
But I do think they're perfect for each other.
I do too. And like, in a way that I don't love, because like neither of them are my favorite characters. But like, if they were together, I think I would like them both more.
It would make more sense in my head.
Yeah. And I think that they would both be like happier if they like actually had like a mate that they could be in love with. And so I think they would stop making everyone else miserable.
Exactly.
So yeah, like that's just kind of we didn't have a whole lot to touch on because this is such a short little thing. Like I'll for those of you who are looking at our visual here, it's a tiny little thing. But really quick, I just wanted to like shamelessly plug our sweatshirts. Yeah, so Miss Tabitha, she's the designer of these wonderful ACOTAR themed sweatshirts. There are going to be more designs, and we will soon have an Etsy shop going. It'll be Best Friends Book Club on Etsy if you're interested in purchasing some merch. So that'll we'll make a post about it when it's official, but just kind of keep your eye out and know that that's coming. Yeah.
Also tune in next week. So we are doing a little mini-sode in honor of Robert Frost, the great poet. In honor of his birthday, we are going to be reading and analyzing some of his work. So it'll be a really awesome short little thing from us. So love some good poetry. We'd love for you to listen to it with us.
I am a poetry stan. You like listen, we plan to
We
do
love poetry.
many poets, but yeah,
We call it Poetry Corner.
Yeah, Poetry Corner. It'll be our first Poetry Corner. I'm so excited. I love poetry so much. So yeah, we'll be doing that next week. But as always,
let's get lit.